So I watched the new Super Mario Bros. Movie. It sucked. Don't get me wrong, I had a feeling of what I was getting into, and if I hadn't been going with friends on discount movie night, I probably wouldn't have ever seen it at all. But I did, and it's genuinely one of the most generic films I've ever watched. It feels like it was made in a lab. Every single thing about it feels processed. It's so formulaic and middle of the road that it's downright bad. Not so bad it's good, its complete mediocrity prevents it from attaining that. It's so bad it's bad. And to all the people who keep saying things like it's just a kids movie,
fuck you.
Yes, it is a movie for kids, but you could make the same argument for every single Mario game, and there are definitely some Mario games that are better than others. You could make that argument for a lot of shit. For example, Banjo-Kazooie and Bubsy 3D are both games for children. One of these games is obviously better in every single fucking imaginable way than the other. Yet by your logic, Bubsy 3D doesn't deserve any of the hate it gets because it's just for kids, right? By your logic, Bubsy 3D is as good as Banjo-Kazooie. Likewise, there are some movies for kids that are still legitimately great movies that adults can still be entertained by, and some that are bad movies that only kids will get enjoyment out of, because kids are fucking stupid. And when you're criticizing a kids movie that's based off a franchise that has existed since the 80s, that a shit ton of adults are going to see, then holding it under an adult lens is completely fucking viable. Grown-ass adults went and saw this movie, and not only with their kids either, with other adult friends. I hope. Critics have every right to talk shit on this movie because A, it was a movie released to the public and that's what critics are for, and B, it was bad and it deserves to be shit-talked. And if you're an adult who's too much of a pussy or Mario fanboy to handle that, then grow the fuck up. If you like the movie because you actually like the movie, that's a viable opinion. You're wrong, but at least your defense of the movie isn't that it's a kid's movie. That's a fucking weak-ass cope. So yeah, the new Super Mario Bros. Movie is bad. It feels like it was made by AI. I predicted every single thing that happens in this movie as I was watching it. But there was another Super Mario Bros. Movie that came out before this one. And this movie is also bad. Don't let anyone tell you any different. The original Super Mario Bros. Is not a good movie. But this one is bad in a different way. This movie is one of those movies that's so bad it's kinda good. Because once you remove the fact that this was about the Mario Brothers, pretty much all of the other reasons people shit on this movie are actually what makes it entertaining. So first I'm gonna address my issues with the new one. Off the dome. Here we go. So people keep talking about how great the animation in this movie is, and I don't get it. This movie just looks like what all major animated movies with a budget in the past 10 years have looked like. Yeah, it looks great. It fucking better. It's by far the part of the film that the most fucks were given about. This film was actually physically created by an animation studio with a multi-million-dollar budget in the year 2023. If it didn't look fucking perfect down to the mushroom, that would be embarrassing. Keep in mind that as amazing as the animation is, it didn't do a single thing that was actually original. Every character and setting in this film was taken from a franchise that has existed for almost 40 years. It did not transport me to a place I'd never been before. I've played Mario games before. A lot of them. The Mushroom Kingdom? I've been there a bunch of times. Bowser's Castle? I've been there a bunch of times. Rainbow Road? I've driven on it a bunch of times. Not to mention that the characters look exactly like they have since, I don't know, Sunshine? So nothing about the stuff being animated is original. It's had a template that's been around for a while now. Now, the Mario games are not known for their involved plots. Unless you're counting the RPG ones, those stories are a little more interesting. But the story was never the selling point of these games. But there are a few basic tenets that are in every Mario game. And I'm not trying to say that movies based on games, books, etc. need to include every single thing. That's a bullshit take too, and I fucking hate it when people say that shit. However, I take an exception to this when the film's selling point is that it's way closer to the games than the last one was. For a movie that's trying to be closer to the feeling of the games, this movie fucks up the only core element that you need in the plot of a Super Mario story. Peach getting kidnapped. The rest of the plot in any Mario game can be embellished or made up on the fly, but this is the one thing that sets every game in motion. And I know that this is a problem all movies have now, where every female character has to be a yas queen boss bitch. But keep in mind that Princess Peach is the ultimate definitive damsel in distress. In the games, that is a core element to her character. Her getting kidnapped is the plot of every single mainline platforming entry in the Mario franchise except Super Mario 2, where you can play and kick ass as her, but this entire game was a fucking dream. So instead, Bowser kidnaps Luigi. So instead of Mario and Luigi going on a quest to save Peach, Mario and Peach are going on a quest to save Luigi. This movie, by the way, is called Super Mario Brothers, and Luigi spends 80% of it locked away in a cage. Yeah, that's the fan service I wanted from a Mario Brothers game. Mario and Peach to save Luigi. Remember that game? Man, this movie is so close to the game, guys. Here's a way the plot of this film could have been improved. Let's say the movie was Mario and Luigi going on an adventure to save the princess. What if Luigi had a story arc about always living in Mario's shadow, which, by the way, has been alluded to many times throughout the series? And then there's a part in the movie where he saves Mario and they have a brother moment. It would add a little layer of depth to the story and give Luigi a nice little story arc. Like, there are still movies that are meh that have halfway decent story moments like the one I just described, but it would have been an enormous improvement over the unearned moments in this film. I also need to talk a little bit about the acting. There's only one actor in this film that actually has some voice acting chops, and it's Jack Black. He is not enough to save this movie, and the song he sings about Princess Peach is still fucking awful. However, the first scene where he talks about wanting to marry Peach was the only scene in the entire movie that actually made me laugh. So to whoever wrote this one scene, you're a gem. But yeah, I wouldn't go so far as to say that Jack Black is a great voice actor, but he's capable compared to everyone else in this film. None of the other actors in this film really sell their roles, with Anya Taylor-Joy in particular giving what has to be one of the worst voice acting performances I have ever heard. Every time she spoke, I had an out-of-body experience. It felt like she was using this script to learn how to speak for the first time. Alright, another real issue with this flick, the fan service and references. These things are not a substitute for an actual movie, I should not have to tell you this. You know, this entire time I feel like we've been using the term exploitation film incorrectly. We usually attribute that term to B movies, but this is exploitation. Fan service is the real exploitation movie. And this movie feels like a fucking exploitation movie. I don't remember Dolomite or Basket Case making a bunch of references to shit in order to fill in for their lackluster stories. Movies like this have real, actual exploit sewn into their design. So yeah, this movie sucks. And it doesn't suck so bad that it's good. It feels like the script was written by AI, the performances were called into actors who were just looking for a paycheck between bigger roles, and not a single moment of fan service feels earned. There was one scene in the film that made me laugh, that was it. No movie should feel like it was created using Microsoft Excel. This film was dog shit. So now I'm going to talk about the old one, and to do this, I have to discuss the negative first. So let me start by stating the obvious. The original Super Mario Bros. Movie is not a good movie. As a Mario movie, it's a fucking atrocity. And despite all of the film's other shortcomings, this is the number one reason most people do not like this movie. It's obvious that the people who made this movie never played a single Mario game in their entire life. As a matter of fact, after rewatching this film, my hypothesis is that the people who wrote this movie read the instruction manuals for these two specific games, and probably watched a couple episodes of the Mario Bros. Super Show, but then didn't start writing the script until a while after, at which point they'd completely forgotten what most of this stuff looked like. Princess Peach is Princess Daisy. King Koopa is a human for most of the movie. The Goombas look like this. Yoshi looks like this. The Mushroom Kingdom looks like Gotham City. Luigi doesn't have a mustache. They go through a wall instead of a pipe. But there are other things this movie just gets flat out wrong that have nothing to do with the games. What the hell is this chick's motivation other than she's jealous of Daisy? Why is Daisy the only one who can put the stone in the asteroid? What's the deal with this chick? Like, she stole the stone, but then decided to help them? Why did all the reptiles evolve into creatures that look exactly like humans, instead of into humanoid reptiles? They still give birth through eggs, but they're human in literally every other conceivable way. T-Rex was not a single-celled organism. This line bothered me more than it should have. How did no one working on this movie go, hey, T-Rex was an animal, animals are not single-celled?
What single-cell organism did you evolve from?
Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Lizard King, thank you very much.
As a matter of fact, the whole devolution thing in this movie is inconsistent. Why did the king devolve into fungus? I thought everyone here was a reptile. This film is a mess. And yet, this movie doesn't feel like an algorithm. It feels like it was made by human beings. Actual work went into this movie. It was completely misguided work, but it's still there and you can see it. The original Super Mario Bros. Actually does have kind of an original look. It feels like it's underground, which is where it takes place. The costumes look interesting. The vehicles look interesting. The set looks great. The creature designs don't look too shabby. Absolutely all of this stuff completely missed the mark as a Mario movie, but as a flashy adventure fantasy movie, it feels more original than this. Overall, this is probably the most genuinely good thing about this film. The amount of work that went into the setting and character design. This stuff still shines through despite all the dumb shit that actually happens in the movie. Speaking of flashy adventure, the action sequences aren't all bad. I was actually kind of impressed with the slide scene. Of course, the CG looks like ass, but this came out a month before Jurassic Park. All CG looked like this before that movie. Then there's the acting. Not every character in this film is great, or even good, but Bob Hoskins, John Leguizamo, and Dennis Hopper all give performances above and beyond what this film deserves. Holy shit, Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo were hammered the entire filming of this movie. And they still sell these fucking characters. Like, if Mario were a real Italian plumber from Brooklyn, he'd be this guy.
Tap water. $3. Any chops?
The fact that this film, which was panned as being one of the worst ever made when it came out, has genuinely better acting in it than the actual quality-controlled, true-to-the-games Mario movie is fucking embarrassing. And then there's the stuff in the movie that's funny because it's dumb. Like this spray-tan mobster, this scene, that weird cliffhanger ending. This scene is funny retroactively. Take this scene for example.
I need Koopa coins, you lame-house! Well, this ought to do me.
Don't touch that! Hey!
Yes, fine.
That's not even ours! Hey!
Let me go! What are you doing? Let me go!
You want to give us the rock bag lady?
Come and get it, big boy.
This scene is insane. Everything happens so fast, my brain could barely keep up. This is hilarious. Then, there's a few things in this movie that are actually genuinely good. I love that they actually solve all their problems by plumbing. I have mad respect for the fact that the movie didn't forget that they're plumbers. Also, this line.
Do you know what I love about mud? It's clean and it's dirty at the same time.
This is a genuinely good line. In or out of context, it's just a great thing to say. So yeah, a genuinely good film? Fuck no. But it is good by virtue of being bad enough to be genuinely entertaining. So by virtue of actually being fun to watch, the original Super Mario Bros. Is better than this literal fucking checklist of a movie. This one may have failed too, but I say if you're gonna fail, go big or go home. But this raises an interesting question. Will there ever be a genuinely good Mario movie? One that's so good, it's good? No. I don't think there will be. Because the plots of the Mario games aren't strong enough to sustain storytelling in a film. Each game is the same story told again and again and again. The gameplay and game design is what keeps bringing us back. That's where the innovation is. That's the stuff that makes us love Mario. Yes, there are non-platforming Mario games that have good, more involved stories, but I don't think we're going to adapt Paper Mario or Mario and Luigi anytime soon. How cool would a hand-drawn Paper Mario movie be, though? That'll never happen. A film adaptation of Super Mario is always going to be doomed to either suck because it plays it too safe, or get shit on because it takes too many chances. But you have to do one or the other because the games don't give us enough info to plot out an entire movie. But the Zelda games sure do. Why not make a live-action Zelda movie? Never mind, you're just gonna fuck that up too.